Hallelujah. Thank you, Christian. Thank you to the worship team. And I think it was just so special to sing the names of our Father in this hour, on this day, the day that He has created, and to glorify Him by worshiping Him, acknowledging His name. Well, His names. And by acknowledging His names, we're acknowledging His entire being and who He is. And that we are worshipping for who He is. Yodei Vavai. And for that we can just thank Him. And as Christian has prayed, that we can just bring to Him our beings, us as people. He is far from us. He knows our infirmities. He knows our heartaches. He knows our challenges. His hand is not short. He will be able to assist us and go through us through these times as well, what we might be facing. And this week's Torah portion is called Shoftim. Appoint yourself judges and officers. And Shoftim is then the plural for judges. Well, it's not the plural for judges, it's the Hebrew for judges. But it's the plural form. I thought that it is a good opportunity to speak a little bit about the scales of justice. In a time when we are also seeing a lot of injustice. And that it is important to reflect on the scales of justice. Doing so full knowing that there is a judge. And we sang His names just now. And as we were going through His names, I also thought about Him, the judge, the soon coming judge of the world. And the reason why He will come is because He's going to put in place the scales of justice. He's going to restore the scales of justice. One of the big things that He's going to do is to bring back and restore the scales of justice. And so, this week's reading, Shoftim, is extremely important because it's a plumb line for society, for everybody. But before running ahead of myself and the story, think about it that our Father has sent us gifts, the gifts of our Father. I would imagine that everybody would like to receive gifts. Anybody here who would not like to receive a gift today? I'm sure there will be somebody that will pray for you. So everybody would like to receive gifts. So let's receive the gifts that Father has installed for us through His Torah. Reflecting on last week's reading, it says, see, re'eh. Johan spoke about that at length last week. That see of re'eh is this big word. Behold, understand, have insight in, reflect, and have a vision. I'm setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing when you obey the commands of Jehovah your Elohim, which I command you today, and the curse if you do not obey Jehovah your Elohim, but turn aside from the way which I command you, to go after other mighty ones which you have not known. That's the start of last week's reading. That I am putting before you because Natan is, that's the word Natan. I would like a gift of the blessings if you obey, and gift of curse if you do not obey. But this curse is for teshuvah. So I put before you the gift of the blessing when you obey, to say, hey, I'm so great. No. I give you this gift of the blessing to be a witness about His greatness, His goodness, His power. Or then, I give you the gift of this curse, and to reflection and to teshuvah, to turn around. And from the way of being disobedient. See and have insight in and understand the gifts of the Father, the blessing unto a witness, and the curse unto teshuvah. This is a blessing. Both the pathway to teshuvah, to come back to Him for obedience. And we can see His mercy right off the bat in this gift. For the blessing and the curse. Both are a blessing. One for correction and one for a witness. This word Natan is a huge word. It's a heavy word. It's a big word. Right through Scripture. Because it's a gift to put in place, to make. It's an action-orientated verb. So you can actually have this sort of word picture where you say, He physically put this gift in your lap. And He says, there's the gift. You can choose whether it's a blessing or a curse, but it's both a gift. And then from there on, as Johannes expanded on it, is that you can receive this gift with all your senses. With what you see, with what you hear, with what you feel. And he mentioned that man has got the 6 senses, because they're always hungry. But with everything that you have, you then can worship Him and receive the gift. This week's reading starts with the word Natan, appoint. It's the same word. Appoint, Natan, judges and officers within your gates, which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you according to your tribes. I am giving you, says the Father, I am giving you the gift of appointing judges, so that they can be a gift unto you. I am giving you the gift of appointing judges as a gift to society. And they shall judge the people with righteous right ruling. Do not distort that right ruling. Do not show partiality, nor take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. Follow righteousness alone, so that you live and inherit the land which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you. Isn't that a gift? And he says, I'm giving you this gift. I'm putting this gift in your hands to give yourself actually a gift. And that is a righteous judge. If you appoint a righteous judge, you have given yourself a gift. And I give you this opportunity to give yourself that gift. So basically, as I've mentioned, He's giving the nation the gift of appointing or putting in place. Physically, you can see this word picture, put them in place, judges unto a blessing or unto a curse. The story continues. You can take the story of last week of Re'eh, and it just continues, just sort of a B part thereof. Have insight in, have understanding in the gifts of our Father, and receive this gift of putting in place a righteous judge. And then the righteous judge will do judgment. And it will be a gift unto you. Because there will be no distortions, there will be no partiality, there will be no bribery, there will be no corruption, because there will be a righteous judge. So the judges, the shafat, or then the shoftim, the plurals, means the executive, legislative, and judicial. It's basically, it's a very, very broad concept. Everybody in authority, everybody who makes rules, everybody who makes judgments. Let's just think about that for a moment. When you and I got up this morning, have we had to make a judgment whether to get out of bed, yes or no? That makes you a shoftim. Just so that we're all on the same page. It's not just people who has got a BProc or an LLB degree and who's a lawyer or a procureur or somebody. Everybody who has the ability to make a judgment about anything is a judge or a shoftim. The domain might be different. The one is then the legal domain. Solidly, I get that. But standing up, getting up out of bed in the morning, getting dressed, brushing the teeth, those are judgments that everybody must make. And hopefully does. Officers, scribes, record keepers, organizers, officials, or bureaucrats. So you can actually see between the two, the one would be the lawmakers, and the others are the implementers. And you've got the two branches of governance covered by these two. And then the gates, the port, a portal, or an entrance. Those gates could be the gate of your house, because you have to take judgment of what is happening in your house. That gate could be the gate of your profession, of your society, of your village, of your community. There are many different gates, also spiritual gates. But the judges and the officers are the gatekeepers, because they determine what flies and what not. And the gatekeepers, they are gatekeepers of righteous right ruling. And by doing so, they are the protectors of civilization. Take the gatekeepers away, and society collapses. Because the gatekeepers are gone. The gatekeepers are protecting the village. The gatekeepers protect the household, if it's just a house, the community, the country, the profession, medical, legal, doesn't matter. The judges and the officers are the gatekeepers. Because you have to be appointed in the gates. That's why you're a gatekeeper. So everybody sitting here is also a gatekeeper. Our gates might not look the same. They definitely don't look the same. But everybody is a gatekeeper. A few weeks ago I spoke about the judicial reform in Israel. And I said that the entire world will take notice of this. And it is doing so. And the question is very simple. Who must appoint? That's the burning issue. The Torah does not say. It says appoint. It does not say who must appoint. And that's now the flashpoint. Because he's saying to us, appoint this. I'm giving you the gift to appoint judges for you to be a gift unto society. But he's not saying, Torah is silent about how to appoint, who to appoint. And this is key, friends. Because by doing that, he's actually asking society to become participants in the process. How you think about this appointing process reflect your moral and spiritual fiber. If you're appointing righteous judges, it reflects your moral and spiritual fiber. If you appoint unrighteous judges, it reflects your moral and spiritual fiber. And guess what? You'll reap what you harvest. You'll reap what you sow. If you sow unrighteous judges, you'll reap unrighteousness. If you sow righteous judges, you'll reap righteousness. That choice is leaving to us. So he's saying, I put before you the blessing and the curse. The blessing unto when you're obedient unto a witness, or a curse unto teshuvah. That is asking us to participate in the process. How do we appoint? Who do we appoint? So now this is a flashpoint. And this flashpoint has got massive spiritual implications for every nation on earth. Because there are 12 tribes. 12 tribes. Not 1, not 2, not 10, 12. And it's about the spiritual edification of all 12 tribes. There's one leader tribe. Now, the leader tribe, what happens there is a barometer of what happens in other tribes. Now, the leader tribe can become arrogant and says, I'm the only tribe that matters. Or the other tribes can say, well, we're more important, and then you've got a fight between the two, which is a fight of arrogance between them, and it's got names. But the fact of the matter is, there are 12 tribes. One is a leader. It acts as a spiritual barometer for us. So, currently, is the rule of law that is on trial. How are we appointing judges? I'm reminded of something that has happened in South Africa not very long ago. What has happened in Cape Town this week? The rule of law is on trial. There's not a country in the world where this is not the issue, a flashpoint. The rule of law is on trial and is standing accused. It is this week's Torah portion playing out in a movie. Have we appointed righteous judges or not? What are we harvesting? We're harvesting what we've sown. Are we going to use that as a blessing and say, let's do teshuvah unto righteousness? Or are we going to be blinded and not see, not re'eh, and ignore it, and run forward full-heartedly unto death? Just one big distinction quickly, and I'll refer back to it when I'm coming a little bit later, is that we have to differentiate between kings and shoftim. Kings, the malachim, are anointed by clergy. Kings are anointed by clergy. It makes it a religious ceremony with spiritual implications. Shoftim, the judges, are appointed and sworn in by Chief Justice. It makes it a judicial ceremony with legal implications. They're different ceremonies. Kings are spiritual, religious ceremonies. Shoftim, legal, judicial ceremonies. And the nature of the ceremony determines the leader's function as well as the source of authority and protection. Kings are protected by their spiritual leaders. The shoftim are protected by the laws of the country, whether righteous or not righteous. And obviously, where both are in place, there's some working together of the system. In most societies, civilizations today, kings have got a ceremonial role to play, but spiritual. And the judges, the shoftim, have got this legal role to play, protected by the laws of the country. So, I'll come back to this a little bit later. Righteous right ruling. Let's focus on righteous right ruling first and then on unrighteous ruling. So, we're halfway through the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, the book of words. Genesis started out with individuals. Adam, Seth, Lot, Abraham, individuals. Exodus was the rescue of a family and the establishment of identity. Leviticus was the establishment of the priests and the rightful way of worship. Numbers about the formation of character when we're going through the wilderness. Deuteronomy, this book, is about forming a testimony-carrying, covenant-bearing nation. Why? In lifespan, the first 4 books covered thousands of years. Deuteronomy is a month. From day 1st of Deuteronomy to the last chapter is a month. It's a very short period of time. Moses is 120. The others sitting in front of him is maximum 40 years except 2 chaps. So there's a huge age gap. And he's using this last month of his life to tell them, you're going to cross over the Jordan River, you're going to establish a nation now on the other side. How are you going to be a testimony-carrying, covenant-bearing nation? And he's giving them instructions of how to do that, and how to be that. Have insight in, accept the blessings, appoint the judges, etc. Deuteronomy 12 says, do not do as we are doing here today, each one doing whatever is right in his own eyes, because you have not yet entered the rest and the inheritance which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you. But you shall pass over the Jordan and shall dwell in the land which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you today to inherit, and you shall dwell in safety. Each person sitting in front of his tent, doing what is right in his own eyes, seems very familiar to us today, I think. Everybody says, I think I will do it like this, or I will do it like this, what is right in your own eyes. And he's preparing them to cross the Jordan to be this unit, this nation in unity. And for that, he gives us an expansion on the 10 words. Chapter 5, the 10 words, and then he unpacked that for us. Last week, honoring the name through the senses and everything and the sanctification of time. And this week, respecting authority. And he expands on why it is important to respect authority. For being a covenant-bearing, respectful nation to live in safety. If you want to live in safety, inherit the land, respect authority. The 5th commandment. But you will say, no, wait a minute, the 5th commandment is honor thy father and thy mother. Like, seriously? What is that about? At household level, it is honor thy father and thy mother. But the principle is to honor and respect authority. At the national level, honor thy leaders. And at the kingdom spiritual level, honor, fear the Father. Our Messiah has spoken into this. He has said, don't come and worship me with a grudge against your brother. First make right with your brother, and then come worship me. I had a particular issue around this. I come out of a very troubled household, troubled youth, and this was difficult. Father can restore everything. If we can't respect our parents, you cannot respect the leaders of the country, and you cannot honor the Father. It's as simple as that. So he's made it very clear to us. Now when we reflect on society today, and we ask, where is the honor of the parents? Where is the honor of authority? It's few and far between. There's no more respecting the authority. The rule of law is standing on trial. So you've got this balances and counterbalance. The people must respect and obey. The judges must rule justly, fairly, accept no bribes, show no partiality, and not twist words, because they are the gatekeepers of righteous right ruling. And that is the foundation of a covenant-bearing, society that has got a witness unto the Father. What is under threat at this moment? No respect for authority. And my goodness, can the judges twist words? And is the legal system in shambles? Globally, in total shambles. There is not a country where you have a legal system that really works according to those principles. So, that is the foundation of a well-functioning society. Take that away and what do you have? Anarchy. It's such a, in a sense, elementary concept to respect authority. And that is the basis of a well-functioning society. But why is it also then the one that's under attack? Perhaps because precisely of that reason. Now, there are literally thousands of professions and occupations in the world. And only one has got the honor of getting a parasha named after it. Shofti. There's no other. That's all the names in the parasha headings. None of them carries the name of a profession or an occupation. Except this one. Farmers didn't make it. Doctors didn't make it. Economists didn't make it. Nobody made this list. From an occupation perspective, from a professional perspective. Just the judges. I find that very, very interesting. So, that makes the role of judges deeply spiritual. And everybody who is in the seat of judgment, be it a parent, be it a leader, be it a person standing at the gate of his profession, be it then a person in the legal industry or legal profession, it's a deeply spiritual role to make judgments. From righteous judgment, let's go to unrighteous ruling. Sort of the two sides of the thing. I'm going to talk about an example of unrighteous ruling. The example of Lot. Genesis 19. And 2 messengers came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. What was he doing at the gate of Sodom? Who are sitting at the gates of Sodom? The Shoftim are sitting there. So why is he there? He sits there with the Shoftim. And when Lot saw them, he rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground, and the rest of the Lot story and Sodom and Gomorrah then unfolds. And so the question is, what was the issue as to why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed? Why were they destroyed? The book of Jasher in chapters 18 and 19 gives us several case studies as to what has happened there because of the actions of corrupt judges. Corrupt judges who ruled wrongly against the poor, strangers, travelers, merchants, sojourners, even Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, and how they've handled him. And as a result of their judgment sitting at the gates, the cities fell into complete perversion and corruption. I'm going to read one case study, one brief case study. And the young woman went into the house and fetched the man, who was a poor merchant and traveler, bread and water to eat and drink. And this affair became known to the people of Adamah, which is part of this conglomerate of Sodom, and they assembled and brought the young woman before the judges. that they should judge her for this act. For this act of giving this man, a poor traveler, bread and water. And the judges said this, the judgment of death must pass upon this woman because she transgressed our law. And the law is not to give bread and water to a traveler. And this therefore is the decision concerning her. And the people of those cities assembled and brought out the young woman and anointed her with honey from head to foot, as the judge had decreed, and they placed her before a swarm of bees, which were then in their hives. And the bees flew upon her and stung her, that her whole body was swelled. And the young woman cried out on account of the bees. But no one took notice of her or pitied her, and her cries ascended to heaven. Reminds us of Egypt. And the Lord was provoked at this and all the work of the cities of Sodom, for they had abundance of food and had tranquility amongst them, and still would not sustain the poor and the needy. And in those days their evil doings and sins became great before the Lord. And the Lord sent for 2 of the angels that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. The indictment against Sodom and Gomorrah is an indictment against the judges. They could have put a stop to it. They were the authority who sat in their gates. The actions of the judges perverted the people, which led to their perverted, corrupt, and heinous actions. The judges are the gatekeepers. They could have acted righteously, and there would have been righteousness. They acted unrighteously, and it perverted the entire city. Rogue judges leads to a rogue society. A rogue society has got a skewed moral compass, and the image of our Father, the Tselem that He has given us, is then lost. And that skewed moral compass leads to absolute spiritual confusion. And I think if there's one thing that is rife at the moment, is spiritual confusion. What's right? What's wrong? Who's right? Who's wrong? Who's right is right and who's wrong is wrong. It's because the judges are confused. And when judges are confused, the nation, the society, the world is confused. And when it is manifested in the physical, it's because it's confused in the spiritual. Because we have lost the compass of the Torah. 2 Peter reflects on this episode with the following words. And having reduced to ashes the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, condemned them to destruction, having made them an example, very important, I'll come back to that in a second, to those who afterwards would live wickedly, and rescued righteous Lot, who was oppressed with the indecent behavior of the lawless. It can only be lawless if there's a law, and there can only be a law if there's judges. For day after day that righteous man, dwelling among them, tortured his righteous being by seeing and hearing their lawless works. Then Jehovah knows how to rescue the reverent ones from trial and keep the unrighteous unto the day of judgment. To be punished, and most of all those walking after the flesh in filthy lust and despising authority. Despising authority. That key thing. The 5th commandment. Appoint judges, part of honor thy father and thy mother, establish authority and the respect thereof, with judges ruling rightly. But they despise authority, bold, headstrong, speaking evil of esteemed ones. Whereas messengers who are greater in strength and power do not bring a slanderous accusation against them before the master. But these, like natural, unreasoning beasts, he's not mincing with words here, he's not playing around here, having been born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheme that which they do not know, shall be destroyed in their destruction, being about to receive the wages of unrighteousness. Peter putting it into perspective that it was his righteous soul that was tormented because of the unlawlessness, because of the wickedness, because the judges didn't do their job properly, resulting in a destruction of an entire, cities, conglomerate of cities. If the judges acted righteously, the cities would have been saved. The judges lost the plot and the cities were destroyed. Coming back to what I've mentioned earlier. But the law gives authority to the ruler and protects the ruler. A righteous ruler is authorized towards righteousness. And a lawless ruler is authorized towards lawlessness. Put before you the blessing and the curse. Pick which one you would like to have, but have insight in that if you pick the wrong one, that it will be unto a curse for you to do teshuvah. Pick the one that's a blessing. Just to show how strong this is, a quick reminder. Sunday evening, state of emergency. Thursday, country lockdown. That's how powerful the law is. A few years ago. And you couldn't move. So imagine this strength, this protection in the hands of the lawless one. Tormenting the souls of the righteous. And you see the Lot story playing out. Lot was tormented in his soul. He was unable to execute and experience justice because the gatekeepers were kept in power and authority by a corrupt legal system. Corrupt judges, corrupt system, entrenched lawlessness, lawless society, which then feeds back to a corrupt legal system, a corrupt judges, which torments the righteous soul. I'm not going to reflect on it, but you can see the mirror image of the Lot story in the apocalypse of our Messiah, Revelations 11. There are the two witnesses testifying about his greatness and about his goodness in the streets of Jerusalem. They had the authority and the power and the ability to send fire from their hands and from their mouth, devouring everybody around them. And then they were killed and died, left in the streets for 3 days. But then Messiah came as the final judge. And we see the mirror image of the Lot story in Revelations 11. And it is in that judgment of our Messiah that lawlessness will be judged. But the measure of that lawlessness according to what? Torah. That's the plumb line. And it was only by destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, its people and the corrupt legal system, that the gatekeepers could have been removed. Because it's the gatekeepers of this lawless system that needs to be removed. Because while the gatekeepers of a lawless system is in place, the lawless system is in place. You have to remove the gatekeepers of the lawless system. That's to be done by our Messiah, is to remove the lawless gatekeepers in order for righteousness to be established. And with him then, the judge in the millennium. I want to reflect on this just very briefly. Genesis 18 says, they were the two men who went to Abraham. 2 men? No, 3 men. 3 men. And the last verse of chapter 18 says, then Jehovah went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham. And Abraham addressed him as Yehovah in chapter 18. The very next verse, there's no chapter breaks, the very next verse, and the two messengers came to Sodom. And there's no more speaking of Yehovah. It went from Freebin, but expressed as Yehovah, to two messengers. Why is one? Where's the other one? Messiah. He did not go to Sodom and Gomorrah. And we must see restraint in that. That he has sent messengers to execute it. Messengers who had a very specific focus and function and job to do. And ability. But in him not going, there's also long suffering amidst that judgment. He's giving us his long nose and some restraint from his side. To Timothy, Paul is reflecting on this matter in great detail. He says, in the sight of Elohim and the Master Yeshua Messiah, who shall judge. So suddenly, this opens up what the real issue is within corrupt judges and the corrupt legal system. Is the fact that there is the judge. And the fight is against the judge. The living and the dead at his appearing and at his reign. I earnestly charge you, proclaim the word, be urgent in season, out of season, reprove, warn, appeal with all patience and teaching, for there shall be a time when they shall not bear sound teaching, but according to their own desires they shall heap up for themselves teachers tickling the ear, and they shall indeed turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to myths. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have guarded the belief. For the rest, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, while the Master, Yeshua, is the righteous judge. And there's the spiritual battle. Because there is a righteous judge. And he has given us the ability, he has given us the gift to appoint people to judge as a reflection on his behalf on earth. But they have went astray. They went unto crookedness, unto unrighteousness. And now it's actually his position that is being attacked. Shall give to me on that day, and not to me only, but also to those loving his appearing. Like righteous Lot. When those messengers came, released him, rescued him, he was rescued out of that process. But unrighteous judges is a declaration of war against Messiah. The one big section in Scripture around the lawlessness and the one who is lawless is to Thessalonians. As to the coming of our Master Messiah and our gathering together to him, we ask you, brothers, not to become easily unsettled in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us. So Paul is saying, do not be deceived as to the words of Paul himself. He says, people are going to use my own words to deceive you. Let me read that again. He says, not to become easily unsettled in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us. Read it in the reverse, and it means, Paul is saying, people are going to use my words to deceive you. So do not be unsettled by it, as the day of Jehovah has come. So I'm thinking of this, and it's really troubling in a sense in terms of how the words of Paul is being distorted. And Paul has actually prophesied that it is going to happen. He says, don't be unsettled in mind and troubled as if I have said something which I have not said. Let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first. Falling away from what? The word there is apostasia, a defection from truth. Let no one deceive you in any way, because of the defection from truth has to come first. The falling away from Torah has to come first, and the man of lawlessness is to be revealed, and the son of destruction who opposes and exalts himself, the one who is arrogant, is going to lift himself up, which is then this declaration of war. Above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as Elohim, as arrogant as you can get, in the dwelling place of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. So the one that defects from the truth personifies actually this lawlessness, this falling away from the truth. And it continues, and then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the Messiah, Master, shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and bring to naught with the manifestation of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power and signs and wonders of falsehood, and with all deceit of unrighteousness. Exactly the opposite of what the Shoftim must do. Rule righteously. Rule righteous and follow righteousness in those perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth, the Torah, the love of the Torah, in order for them to be saved. And for this reason, Elohim sends them the working of delusion. There will be a delusion. I've looked at that word delusion and found a modern translation. It's called wokeness. And for this reason, there will be a wokeness. Paul was quite with it, eh? For them to believe the falsehood, in order that all should be judged who did not believe in the truth, but have delighted in the unrighteousness. And now it is opening up in terms of what is happening. Because there's unrighteous judges. That's a reflection of an unrighteous, corrupt society. We should see it unto teshuvah and returning unto our Father. But when it is not, when there's no teshuvah, when that time period is finished, it will be then unto judgment. And so the man of sin, the man of lawlessness, he is the one who defected from the truth of our Father. He is the epitome of arrogance, who declared himself God, the antithesis of righteousness. And then, the problem is, he's authorized to do so and protected by a lawless, corrupt legal system that is keeping him in place. Johan shared these verses last week, and I thought that is very appropriate just to reflect on it very quickly. In Little John 3 that says, everyone sinning has neither seen him nor known him. But he who is doing evil has not seen, has not has not got the understanding, has not got the insight, does not behold him. I'm concluding basically by a summary. Deuteronomy 16 says, give yourself the gift of judges. And these judges are to judge the people with righteous, right ruling. Do not distort the right ruling. Do not show partiality. Do not take bribes. Do not twist the words. And the people are to follow righteousness and righteousness alone. 2 Thessalonians 2 says, the lawless one exalts himself. The polar opposite. And he will come to power with signs and wonders of falsehood. And there will be a deceit of unrighteousness in those perishing. The opposite. And the people will enjoy a working of delusion and believed the falsehood. I wonder where Paul got that. You think he got it from this week's Torah portion? He's the world's greatest Torah scholar of all times outside Moses himself. So instead of reading, seeing and observing and witnessing Deuteronomy 16, we will start to observe and see 2 Thessalonians 2 as the other side of the coin. But the result thereof, the outcome thereof, is the final verse of 2 Thessalonians 2. That it should be judged who did not believe the truth, but have delighted in the unrighteousness, like Sodom and Gomorrah. And it will be a Sodom and Gomorrah version 2, but at a global scale. And so, we are in this month of Elul, as Christian has mentioned also, where we are preparing ourselves for Yom Kippur, that great day of our Father. Basically 39 days from today, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So, where is the judgment seat of our Father? It's on top of the Ark of the Covenant. Everyone will be judged at that judgment seat in a time future. Romans 14, 2 Corinthians 5 is very clear about it. The question is, when we approach that seat covered by the blood of the Lamb, we are standing there in terms of His righteousness. Then it's a seat of mercy. If we approach that seat uncovered, we are standing there on behalf of our own righteousness, which is going to be a problem if that is the case. And the judgment will be in terms of the content of what is in that ark, which is the 10 words. The manna, Him the bread of life, and Aaron's staff, the 12 tribes coming together, leading the 12 tribes. And so, as we are preparing for the festivals of next month, waiting for Yom Teruah, then Yom Kippur, this Torah portion of Shoftim leads us into this and say, prepare your hearts. There's going to be a day that we're all going to stand in front of this judgment seat. It can be a seat of mercy when we're covered by the blood of the Lamb. If we're not covered by the blood of the Lamb, we're standing there in terms of our own righteousness, in terms of our own righteousness, in terms of our own doing, and then we will be found wanting. So how do we live righteously? We learn from Lot. He knew the truth. He did not withdraw from the perverse society and went somewhere else and say, they're just so perverse, I'm not going to do anything with them. He engaged in the gates. He lived in an evil and wicked city, but irrespectively sought justice and righteousness, even to his own detriment. Why can I say this? When those 2 men came, he knew what's going to happen with them if he does not intervene. He intervened. He said, come to my house. And he was offering his daughters on behalf to those evil, wicked men. But if he was not at the gates, he could not have intervened. He could not have made a judgment and brought those 2 men to his house, which means that he might not have been saved. He was able to render righteous judgment in what was before him because he engaged in the process. He did not withdraw and run away. And he was a man of faith. Jehovah knows how to rescue the reverent ones from trial and to keep the unrighteous unto the day of judgment. He escaped. He did not knew those 2 men are going to come and destroy the city. I mean, he had not that knowledge. Abraham didn't send him a WhatsApp and tell him, hey guy, there are 2 men are coming and they're not happy. He did not send him a WhatsApp. So he executed great faith, not knowing that there's a rescue for him and for his household planned. But he still intervened righteously. So, where I've started a while ago, where are the Shoftim today? Here we are. It's us. In our respective places, have to make judgments. Some in the legal discipline, some at household level, on your profession, in the city, where we are. But we are the Shoftim, appointed by the Father to provide right ruling in the situations that He places before us. So when we're confronted with wicked situations, and we're sitting in a wicked environment, think of Lot. Lot did not pray, Father, take me away. He says, give me the wisdom, give me the eyes, the ear to understand, to intervene righteously. To stand in the gap for others as a gatekeeper of our respective cities. Not knowing when the Father will send His Son to rescue us from this world. To provide accommodation and nourishment, be that spiritual, mental, physical, to those that He has sent us, to those that He put before us. And then, lastly, so that we can actually be that Lot in a lawless, perverted, and corrupt society. Lot did not know he's going to be taken out of that city by those two men. Still, he acted righteously. Still, he executed judgment by standing up and be righteous in that situation. And I think, and I can see and I can witness around me, where Father is putting His people in places where there is unrighteousness, for them to be the righteous one and act righteously, despite the perversion and the corruptness that's around us. And in that process, take His light to every facet of our world. With the hope and the knowledge that one day He will send His Son to judge the world and lead us into a new future. But for today, let's be like Lot. Our Father that's in heaven, You have given us the word of Shoftim, and You've given us the gift of putting in place judges to judge righteously. And while we can lament that there are judges that are not righteous, and that the world is not righteous and does not follow righteousness, You have appointed us as Shoftim in our respective places, in our households, in our professions. Be that medical, be that agriculture, be that any place in society. Let us be the righteous judges with what You have given us, what You have placed before us. And let us see, let us let us have wisdom and insight in terms of how to act and what to do, so that Your light can be shined in every facet, while we hold on to the promise and the hope that You, our Messiah, is to come. But until that day, You have given us that great, enormous gift to be the judges of our situations, the officers, the people who can rightly rule our respective situations, and help us then also to respect others and to respect authority, and be catalysts of a healthy, restored society. Let us learn from Lot to stand up against unrighteousness, whatever the price might be. because you have taken up our sins. You have given up so much, because you are our Prince of Peace, the one that is to come, but also the righteous judge. And for that we praise you and we glorify your name. Hallelujah. Amen.